The average American over 50 spends around $500 a year on dietary supplements. Most of the active ingredients in those bottles iron, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamin C, anti-inflammatory. Compounds are present in plants, currently growing in most American yards, without being planted or purchased. Nobody made that connection for them. Every plant in this video is sold as food in grocery stores. In other countries today, not in history books. Right now, purslane costs $3 to $5 a pound in Greek markets, where it goes by the name glystrida. Chickweed has been a recognized spring food in Japan since the year 900. These are not lost plants. They are plants that never got an American label. This video covers 10 of them, ranked from least to most valuable. Somewhere around number 4, there is a plant found in 48 states. With more iron than beef and seeds that grind into flour. You have probably pulled it this week. The plant at number 1 is the one most of you root around on purpose. That is the wrong instinct. There is no botanical definition of a weed. Open any plant taxonomy textbook.
The plant producing those same leaves is growing in your yard at no cost.
A weed is not a type of plant. It is a judgment about location. The same species gets a different name depending on which side of the Atlantic it lands on. This list is not a list of rare plants. It is a list of plants that got the wrong label in this country.
Number 10. Wood sorrel, vitamin C, shade only. If you've ever walked past a patch of heart-shaped leaves growing in clusters of 3 under a tree, you've already walked past a vitamin C source. The leaves are small and pale green, growing low to the ground in places where almost nothing else does. The north side of a fence, the shadow under a large oak, the corner of a yard that gets no direct sunlight at all. That sour, slightly tangy flavor comes from oxalic acid, the same compound that makes rhubarb tart. It is not a warning sign. It is a flavor. A 500 milligram vitamin C supplement, 120 tablets, runs $12 to $18 at CVS. Wood sorrel produces that same compound in the spots of your yard that every other plant on this list cannot reach. It fills the dead zones. Wood sorrel works in shade, but it disappears for 8 months of the year. What comes next doesn't disappear. It shows up when literally nothing else will grow. Number 9. Chickweed grows when nothing else does.
Most plants on this list compete with your grocery store. This one competes with a calendar. Thin stems, small oval leaves, white flowers with 5 deeply notched petals that look like 10 it grows in low, dense mats close to the ground. It starts in February or March, weeks before the last frost date, before any cultivated vegetable can safely go into open ground. One plant produces 800 seeds. Those seeds stay viable in soil for up to 10 years. In February, a bag of greenhouse greens at Whole Foods runs $5 to $8. Chickweed is producing fresh leaves at exactly that time, in your yard at no cost. It delivers vitamin C, calcium, magnesium, and iron, not the strongest profile on this list, but the only fresh plant material available during the weeks, when everything else is still frozen or dormant. It grows when nothing else will. Chickweed wins on timing. What comes next wins on something no other plant on this list, or anywhere in your garden can match. Every month, millions of Americans spend $20 to $35 on fish oil capsules. Purslane produces the same fatty acid. It's growing in the crack, between your driveway and your patio right now.
Number 8. Purslane, your yard's free fish oil.
Thick, water-filled stems, small, rounded leaves, dark green and slightly glossy. It spreads flat and low to the ground like a miniature succulent that decided to grow out of pavement instead of a pot. You have almost certainly stepped on it this summer without knowing what it was. According to the USDA, purslane contains 300 to 400 milligrams of alpha-linolenic acid, per 100 gram serving more omega-3 fatty acids than any other leafy plant on Earth. A standard 1,000 milliliter fish oil soft gel from Amazon or CVS runs $20 to $35 a month. Purslane delivers the same class of fatty acid at no cost. from June through September, in conditions that would kill most cultivated vegetables. No irrigation, no prepared beds, peak growth during the weeks. When your tomatoes are wilting in August heat, your body knows what this is. Your lawnmower doesn't. There is one more thing about purslane that most food content never touches. It has never been selectively bred. Nobody cultivated it to be sweeter or less bitter, which means it still carries compounds that domesticated plants lost generations ago, including norepinephrine, a compound identified in purslane tissue through mass spectrometry, one of the only plants on record that contains it.
Every plant on this list has one thing in common. Nobody selected them to be more palatable. When we breed vegetables to be sweeter, softer, and less bitter, we're unintentionally removing the same defense compounds the plant made to survive. A 2011 study in PLOS1 measured protein in emmer wheat, the ancestor of modern wheat, and found 3 times more than in commercial varieties. Not because nature changed, because we selected it out. The weeds in your yard haven't been selected, which is exactly why they still have everything your supplements are trying to replace. That explains the nutritional gap. What comes next takes that principle further into actual grain production. Number 7. Lamb's quarters. 1 weed, 2 harvests.
Most people who have this plant in their yard think it's a weed that looks like spinach. That's half right. It also produces a seed crop, diamond-shaped leaves with a pale, powdery coating on the underside, almost silver when the light catches it, stalks that grow straight and reach 6 feet by late summer, easy to walk past, very easy to misidentify. The leaves contain 4.2 grams of protein per 100 grams raw, higher than fresh spinach, along with iron, calcium, riboflavin, and vitamins A and C. It produces through spring and autumn in poor soil, without any bed preparation. Then there are the seeds. Small, black, and closely related to quinoa, both belong to the Chenopodiaceae family. Native American communities across the continent harvested them deliberately as a grain crop, long before quinoa had a price tag. One plant produces up to 75,000 seeds. They can be sprouted, ground into flour, or eaten whole. 1 plant, 2 crops. Every plant so far feeds you. The next one has a classification problem. The government considers it an ecological threat, and they're asking you to eat it.
Number 6. Garlic mustard. Eating it saves forests.
The USDA has spent decades trying to control this plant. Conservation groups hold annual pull-it events across the Northeast and Midwest, and every single person doing the pulling is throwing away something with nearly 3 times the vitamin C of broccoli. Heart-shaped leaves with toothed edges, small white 4-petaled flowers, from April through June. Crush a leaf and it smells unmistakably of garlic. It grows along fence lines, under tree canopies, at the shaded edges of yards, places that get no direct afternoon sun. A 1999 study in the Journal of Food Biochemistry measured 261 milligrams of vitamin C per 100 grams in garlic mustard. Broccoli contains 93. It also delivers vitamins A and E, calcium, iron, manganese, and omega-3 fatty acids. The young leaves, harvested in March and April, before the plant flowers. Make a sharp, peppery addition to salads. The roots taste like horseradish. The seeds can be ground as a mustard substitute. The reason conservation groups want it gone is that its roots release compounds into the soil that block the growth of native trees and disrupt underground fungal networks. Every plant left standing does that damage. Every plant harvested removes a source of that damage. Pulling it does not help. Eating it does. Garlic mustard gives you nutrition and does ecological work. The next plant does something different. It runs infrastructure for your entire yard, whether you eat it or not.
Number 5. Clover. Feeds your soil first.
Every other plant on this list takes from your soil. This one puts something back, and without it, your tomatoes, cucumbers, and squash quietly start underperforming. 3 rounded leaflets, white or red flower heads in clusters close to the ground. Present in almost every untreated lawn in North America, the roots of clover host a bacterium called rhizobium. That bacterium pulls nitrogen directly from the air and deposits it into the surrounding soil. The same reason farmers have rotated legumes into depleted fields for centuries. Clover does this as a perennial, every year, across whatever area of your lawn it occupies. No bags of fertilizer, no application schedule. Dried red clover flowers sell for $8 to $15 per ounce at herbal retailers. The isoflavones in red clover have recognized uses for menopause symptoms, an application documented by the European Medicines Agency. The sprouted seeds are ready as fresh greens in 4 days, indoors, in any season. You can't buy this service. Dandelion and clover bloom in March and April, 3 to 4 weeks before most garden flowers. That timing matters more than it appears. A bumblebee queen emerging from winter has no fat reserves. She needs nectar immediately to produce eggs. No early bloom means no colony. No colony in March means no pollination in July. A 2019 study in the Journal of Applied Ecology identified 3 causes of wild bee decline: pesticides, parasites, and loss of wild plant cover. The third one is the only factor a homeowner controls directly. Everything on this list so far addresses nutrition or ecology. What comes next addresses something most home gardens never solve: iron deficiency. And it does it from your own yard.
Number 4. Yellow dock, iron and flower. Free.
This is the plant from the beginning of this video, the one with more iron than beef. And most people who have it growing in their yard have been pulling it for years, thinking it was just another tall weed. Long leaves with distinctly wavy, curled edges, red-tinged stems. Grows straight and reaches 3 to 4 feet by midsummer. Found in moist soil along fence lines, in garden corners present in 48 out of 50 states. The yellow root has been used in Western herbalism for iron deficiency anemia for centuries. In traditional Chinese medicine, it appears in the Ben Cao Gangmu, the pharmacological compendium compiled by Li Shizhen in the 16th century. A comprehensive review published on Science Direct in 2024 documented 224 distinct phytochemicals identified in Rumex crispus. Germany's Commission E, the medical authority that formally evaluates herbal remedies, has studied its pairing with stinging nettle, the plant at number 1 on this list, for combined iron absorption support. The seeds are the second crop. When fully dried, they grind into flour with a flavor close to buckwheat. That is not a coincidence. Yellow dock belongs to Polygonaceae, the same plant family as buckwheat. It is the only carbohydrate source in this entire list of 10. One plant, 2 entirely different crops. Yellow dock is almost completely unknown in American kitchens. The next plant on this list is the exact opposite. Everyone knows it. Almost no one understands what it actually does. You know exactly what dandelion looks like. What most people don't know is that it has an approved medical use in Europe that no vegetable in your garden can claim.
Number 3. Dandelion, 7 months, 4 crops.
You know what this looks like. What you may not know is that every part of the plant serves a separate purpose. The leaves, the flowers, the latex in the stem, and the root, which goes down 18 inches and comes back from the same spot every year from April through October. That root contains 2 compounds, taraxacin and taraxacarin, that stimulate bile production in the liver and gallbladder. The European Medicines Agency formally approved dandelion root extract for bile secretion support in 2011, not as a traditional remedy, as a regulatory classification from a continent-wide medical authority. The same root, roasted and ground, produces a caffeine-free substitute for coffee with a comparable bitter flavor profile. Bags of roasted dandelion root sell for $12 to $15 at Whole Foods and on Amazon. The plant producing that root is in your yard, returning without any intervention, for 7 months out of every year. 7 months, 4 crops, $0. Dandelion is impossible to miss. The next plant is the opposite. It's everywhere, and almost no one recognizes it, including people who've been walking on it for 30 years. Broadleaf plantain grows in every lawn in North America that hasn't been chemically treated. It follows human disturbance so reliably that Native Americans called it white man's footprint. You have almost certainly stepped on this plant today.
Number 2. Broadleaf plantain stops bleeding on contact.
Large oval leaves with prominent parallel veins running from base to tip, growing in a flat rosette close to the ground. Not the banana relative sold in grocery stores. Plantago major, a completely unrelated plant that most people either ignore entirely or confuse with something else. The leaves contain confirmed antiseptic and anti-inflammatory compounds. A fresh leaf, chewed or crushed and pressed against a bee sting, insect bite, or minor cut, reduces swelling and slows bleeding within minutes. This is not folk medicine speculation. The anti-inflammatory activity of Plantago major has been documented in pharmacological research. Young leaves can be eaten like spinach. The seed husks work the same way as psyllium fiber, the active ingredient in Metamucil, because plantain is one of the original sources that psyllium was derived from. It grows year-round in temperate climates. Frost does not stop it. No watering, no bed preparation, no replanting. Native Americans named it white man's footprint because they watched it appear along every trail and road that European settlers traveled. It literally spread across the continent following human foot traffic. It was here before your house was. Plantain is invisible because people don't look for it. The plant at number 1 is the exact opposite. Everyone sees it. Everyone remembers it. And almost everyone has been deliberately avoiding it for all the wrong reasons.
Number 1 on this list is the plant most of you actively root around. You felt it. You remember it. And that pain is the reason it never made it onto anyone's garden plan, which is exactly why it's been at the top of this list the entire time. Number 1. Stinging nettle. Most avoided, most valuable. Arrow-shaped leaves with serrated edges, covered in hollow hairs, so fine they act like miniature needles. Contact releases histamine and serotonin directly into the skin. The reaction is immediate and memorable. Cooking or drying the plant completely removes both compounds. Protein content is higher than fresh spinach. Iron is higher than most leafy vegetables on the market. When paired with yellow dock number 4 on this list, the combination has been studied in Western herbalism for iron deficiency anemia support. Germany's Kommission E has formally evaluated that pairing. The same authority approved nettle root extract as a pharmaceutical-grade treatment for benign prostatic hyperplasia, a condition affecting approximately 50% of men over the age of 60. That is not a traditional remedy. That is a regulatory approval from a national medical body. In Italy, nettle goes into risotto and pasta filling. In Greece, it replaces spinach in savory pies. In Iran, it is a standard ingredient in ashe goje, a traditional herb soup. In Scotland, nettle soup has been documented as a staple food going back centuries. A box of nettle tea at Whole Foods runs $15 to $20. The plant producing those same leaves is growing in your yard at no cost. The plant you feared most costs the most to replace.
10 plants. 6 distinct dimensions of value: nutrition, medicine, soil fertility, pollination, emergency wound care, and raw grain production. Not one of them requires a seed order, a prepared bed, or a watering schedule. The most practical place to begin is dandelion. It is the easiest to identify with certainty, and the hardest to confuse with anything harmful. Pull the leaf, leave the root in the ground. Eat it this week raw in a salad, wilted in a pan with olive oil, before you consider pulling it next week. A 2005 University of Georgia study found the most common reason Americans maintain their lawn is not personal preference, it's neighbor behavior. Brain science calls this conformity cascade. Economist Thorstein Veblen described the same dynamic in 1899. Before lawn chemicals existed, the lawn wasn't sold to you. It was built between you and your neighbors, one glance at a time. The next video covers 8 cultivated crops that work alongside. What's already growing, the ones that fill calorie and storage gaps that no wild plant can provide, and why most home gardens get the combination wrong.